say hi, how you doing. You can jump off immediately. You can stay for a while. I do not care. Welcome to the show. Oh my goodness, we have the announcement. Everybody that's been in the Futureverse community is aware of, at least for a while, because they've been hinting at for quite some time, where there is some kind of partnership with Ready Player One. It looks like this specific announcement is a lot bigger than we originally imagined. For anybody that doesn't know, there was a Third Kingdom white paper, and basically the way to view this is, if you know Sandbox, Decentraland, etc., this metaverse world, Futureverse was building this out, and then we realized that, okay, apparently it's not coming as quickly as we thought, and one of the reasons for that was because of a delay that the team signified was due to a major signing of a partnership. And so the speculation kind of goes of, okay, where is where are these partnerships leading? Because within the Third Kingdom, for anybody that knows like what Futureverse is, we have all these kind of animations, these characters, and I mean, to an extent, some people have said, hey, this somewhat looks like what Disney has, right? And so you kind of go around and then you look at other IPs that are out there, and it seemed that, you know, the team talked about how they want to kind of be the next Disney or take down Disney, and so that didn't necessarily line up with the thought process for that. But then when you listen to different podcasts and guest appearances that the team was on, we heard that they were, you know, always hinting at Ready Player One. They're also always hinting at Roblox, it feels like. So maybe this is something that's going to come, but this is the official announcement today, where we do see a major player within Ready Player One joining forces to create this entire IP studio specifically with the Futureverse team. Obviously, this is going to leverage the Root network. I think this is going to be very interesting to see how things flow. I've seen a whole bunch of stuff all over my timeline in terms of articles, and a lot of people kind of fudding, to be honest, like, and not even the fact that it's a part of a blockchain, because that's not hinted at all. But people are like, oh, for Ready Player One, they don't have money to use their, you know, promote their movie, they don't do this, so this is a dystopian future, this is going to be, you know, several years away, and they don't realize what the likelihood is of like this actually launching this year, which it says in the article, but everybody always just reads the headlines and kind of goes with it. So again, if you guys are here, I appreciate you checking this out. Normally Tybo and Shay are with me when we do these radios. We did a couple of them last year, and it's supposed to be a bigger series. However, for today, because the announcement just went out and I know that people are wanting to chit chat about this, feel free to request up to come on the stage and we can chat about this. But it's supposed to be just kind of good vibes, get the information correct with this. And I have done some various videos. If you're wanting to check out my page at all, whether it be YouTube or X, and you click over on the media tab, where we recently got announced that Tencent is involved. If you're not familiar with Tencent, it's one of the biggest companies in the world for video games, and they kind of casually put that out there. We have a partnership with Ripple Inc., which is one of the biggest crypto companies that exist out there, and the issuers of XRP. We have FIFA, we have Muhammad Ali and the entire Authentic Brands group that include Reebok, etc. So on some of my recent shows that I try to do a stream every day that's called X Feed, and we highlight some of the biggest news and happenings within the space. You know, everybody's always looking for what's the biggest news, what's kind of the latest thing, and it's cool that we're seeing for Futureverse, after kind of a year of them getting the foundation set up, that we might get the attention of a lot of people for this. And so I'm kind of rambling right now, and we got Bildo up here, so perfect timing for that. Bildo, how are you feeling after this announcement? Is it kind of what you expected? Is it way bigger? Is it, I mean, maybe even smaller if you had the expectations that this was going to change the world? And we don't really know, but I thought the images of the team, if you guys saw on the announcements, and I can link it up here in a second, looked amazing. I don't know if they're AI renders or what, but the Futureverse platform is looking interesting.
Yeah, I just wanted to come up and say thank you for hosting the space. The other one was a little bit of a downer, so super stoked. Want to share the good vibes. Just remembering that one time I was the first follower of Readyverse.
I love the fact that we're here and we're early on this, and it's kind of interesting too because there's going to be a lot of people that come into this that aren't aware of all the building that's been going on for quite some time, and we have seen that team talk about how this has been in the works for 5+ years for the tech stack and really trying to level up what their game is. No pun intended for their partnerships, what can be created and succeeded within this space. So I guess when we're looking at this and you see that Wade Watts is on kind of all of this, and if you've not seen the movie, it's not going to make like a whole lot of sense, but he's one of the characters within Ready Player One, and it's on like Amazon Prime, at least in Canada. And if you haven't seen the movie, definitely recommend. But when we look at these announcements, do we have it where the entire focus for the first little bit is kind of just the Ready Player One aspect? Are these bigger IPs going to be jumping into what's being built out immediately? Is this going to be a slow rollout? Is this going to be all of a sudden, in the next few days, we have all these announcements of what's coming on here for the early access component of this? Do we think that it's going to be earlier in 2024? Is it going to be midway through? Is it going to be a little bit later? And overall, I'm really really excited to see what this can entail because we do have kind of the Web3 games that exist out there, but there's really more ones that are just based off of the natively grown brands and IP of Web3. When you go and you look at things like the World Wide Web game or Arcade, which is like a metaverse land, they have all these partnerships and characters that you can play from your typical Cyberkongs, Doodles now is out there, Board Ape Yacht Club, et cetera, et cetera. But we haven't seen these worlds build out with the IP and the brands of these bigger and more recognized things. And that's where we're now at of, okay, is this when we finally see literally everyone that wants to get into the space getting in here? Because over the past few years, we've said, okay, like, this is where the attention is. For anybody that's been in the space, we spend all the time, whether it's scrolling through X, watching videos, interacting on Twitter spaces here. And now we have the opportunity to see what kind of size of brands are coming in. And Shara, one of the co-founders of Futureverse and now this new studio, is doing something kind of crazy, and she's highlighted how this year is going to prove the amount of brands that want to get into the space, because as we know, doing blockchain, working within DeFi in any capacity, there are scams, there are ways that you can kind of screw up a lot of things. And for these brands, that PR hit could be absolutely devastating. Even though we have seen Nike, Artifact, and some of these massive, massive players take that first stride in here, we do have this opportunity now to maybe handhold some of these bigger players within here. So again, if you guys are in the audience, you have any thoughts on this, whether good, bad, in between, I'd love for you to request to come jump up on stage, and I want to send invites to everybody under the sun. But Bildo, I've been kind of ranting for a minute, so I'll let you go and I'll open the article to go over here in a sec.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we get some tweets pinned up here for that? And then, yeah, I mean, even the article or the website, it said like more partners to come or something to be announced here soon. So I don't think it's just Ready Player One or just the Third Kingdom within Ready Player One. I think there might be some other big partners tied to it as well. So I think overall it'll be huge. It'll be really fun to enjoy the ride and watch it all play out.
Okay, I'm just opening up the site here to go over. So, I mean, you just look at the site, early access, press partnerships. We'll click on that. A dynamic, interactive platform of interconnected digital experiences, multi IP, interoperable, open metaverse. What a what a word here in 2024. The Readyverse coming in 2024. Okay, so the Readyverse is that the rename of the Third Kingdom? But without them like kind of specifying that that's the rename. What do you think, Bildo?
I think it just got bigger, and the Third Kingdom is going to live within Readyverse, is what my guess would be.
Okay,
But I mean,
nice.
no official announcement. That's just my speculation.
Also on the site says Readyverse Studios maintains the exclusive IP license from Warner Bros., which it's felt like they've hinted that they have a partnership with Warner Bros. I'm curious if this expands beyond because Warner Bros., I believe, have Game of Thrones, they have Harry Potter, and a lot of other crazy things. I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was like an officially licensed Game of Thrones NFT, and like it had people with like claws, and it was one it was not a great first entrance way for Game of Thrones within the Web3 space. So if there is something here with this, I'm very excited to see them come in a little bit of a better way here. But Discovery to bring the Ready Player One franchise to the metaverse. Additional brands and franchises joining the Readyverse will be announced soon. And then they have kind of just a list of all the different articles from the different players. The Hollywood Reporter, Los Angeles Times, Venture Beat, Deadline, Forbes. Personally, I don't really read a whole lot of these things, but it's cool because I know these are big headlines. So, again, if you guys want to request up on stage here, Bildo, I'm going to make you a co-host in case that is there, if you're all right with this, just while I'm reading this, if anybody does request up. So, a real-life Ready Player One, author inks deal to bring IP to the metaverse. Ernest Cline, the author of Ready Player One, and Dan Farah, the producer of the 2018 film, are also on board with the company. Readyverse, which is being developed alongside AI and metaverse firm Futureverse. In the 2011 novel Ready Player One and this 2018 feature film adaptation, citizens of a dystopian world escape to a virtual universe populated by avatars and filled with games, puzzles, and settings featuring cultural references including Pac Man, Blade Runner, and The Shining. Now, the author of the book, Ernest Cline, and the producer of the film, Dan Farah, are partnering with the AI and metaverse company Futureverse to bring Ready Player One to its own digital universe. Futureverse, Cline, and Farah are launching a new company called Readyverse Studios, which will seek to bring IP to the metaverse, and they've secured the rights from Warner Bros. To make Ready Player One the first piece of that puzzle. Now, I'll take a break here just for a second while reading this because it's funny that of the amount of companies that Futureverse has announced over the past like year. Like, listen, I, I barely read a book in a year, and these guys have launched about 10 different companies and then rolled up about 30 of them. It's crazy. And while Kline's novel and Steven Spielberg's film adaptation were set in a dystopian world, the founders are banking on a more optimistic, wag me, vision. Ernie, and this is a quote, Ernie in the wildest way, I mean, he mapped this out and he mapped it out with a real focus on openness at heart. Futureverse and Verse Studios co-founder Shara Senderoff tells the Hollywood Reporter in an interview. Obviously, the movie opens in a dystopian Stax world, which was the catalyst of the movie itself, but Ernie's view is all about the openness of the technology, and he has a fundamental understanding of how these things need to work. This is still another quote. The future has arrived even more quickly than I imagined, added Cline. With Readyverse Studios, we have the opportunity to leverage the revolutionary technology Futureverse has been building for several years to bring to life the best possible version of the metaverse. I'm confident with this team, we have the brightest minds and biggest hearts in place to lead us into the next chapter of our collective future. A future that would make Wade Watts and James Halliday proud. And if anybody doesn't know, Wade Watts and James Halliday are like two of the main characters within Ready Player One. Readyverse also holds the rights to Kline's other novels, including Ready Player Two, as well as his future works. And already the company has had discussions with other creators and owners of coveted intellectual property. Here's the quote. We've already begun conversations quietly with a few major studios and significant rights holders of beloved IP, and they're all leaning into figuring it out with collaborations with us, Farah says. Everyone's really excited about this being the way to bring their IP to the metaverse. That includes Warner Bros., which produced and released Spielberg's film adaptation of Kline's novel that grossed $583 million globally. The Warner team has been super excited and supportive, and I think that the Ready Player One franchise rights will be the first of many IP rights deals we do with Warner. Farah adds. Of course, it also helps to clearly define what their vision of the metaverse is. While Readyverse is thinking about VR and AR headsets, and brackets, like the upcoming Vision Pro from Apple, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I think, they are also viewing it as the means of interoperability between platforms and devices. I think the idea of the metaverse in our head is just the evolution of the internet, Futureverse co founder Aaron McDonald says, and to a user experience that's a bit more connected and a bit more immersive. And we're kind of already seeing it. It's not this thing that's going to happen, it's something that's been happening. The average human that is born in this generation is going to spend 46 years of their life looking at a screen, McDonald adds. So you're in the metaverse. We're there now, and it's about that kind of improvement of user experience and ownership of the things that we care about and love that's really changing. Because there isn't this digital society over here and this physical society we live in, those two things are inextricably linked. We can't pull them apart. Senderoff likens it to how you can use your credit card and Apple Pay at different merchants or restaurants, or how you can bring your book with you from the library to the subway to your house. The goal is to create a digital version of interoperability that its users being avatars, social connections, or even products like clothing to whatever digital hub they choose. This is the longest article of my life. Holy! And for Hollywood studios, it's a fresh revenue stream at a time when they very much need it. We really see the opportunity for big IP to have additional streams, revenue streams, and additional opportunities for engagement in a way that is easy for them to build, Center Offsets. We knew that it would require coming together with Hollywood and holding hands in order to bridge these big and more old school forms of entertainment with a new form of technology that would be really opportunistic for everyone. More quotes here. I think we're almost done. Thanks, guys. I think that Readyverse Studios creates a great opportunity for studios to expand the reach of their IP, expand the fandoms of their IP, and generate new revenue at a time they need to increase revenue, adds Farah, the producer. But they also need to focus head down on their core business of making movies and TV shows, right? So Readyverse Studios is an easy turnkey solution for them to trust their IP in a collaboration with people who know what they're doing and understand their needs and desire too. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are done that article. I'm never reading one again. I love the fact that that was free, didn't have to pay for it. Wow. So honestly, my initial takeaway with reading that is that I feel like it kind of highlights like the Futureverse platform, and when we look at the tools, which we haven't really been able to see yet, it does lean into the AI aspect, because when they're talking about these futuristic things, when we're seeing these imageries and whatnot of the team and what like is this an AI suite of tools, or what do we think like this Futureverse platform is going to be, other than also with their kind of protocol yada yada, where they're able to help bring assets onto the Web3 world in kind of an easy mass way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting. Like, I know Tencent was kind of announced and they're massive in the gaming industry. I'm just wondering if one of their games or multiple of their games will start being integrated to kind of show the interoperableness of like, hey, check it out. You want to play this game? Go ahead and play it with your fluff, or play it with your party bear, or play it with, you know, just your normal Web2 normie that can come in and play and doesn't realize what's all going on. So, I mean, I would imagine there'll be, I mean, and it kind of says in the announcement, like more partners building in the Readyverse. So it'll be really interesting to see what all games, or if it is games and maybe just more social experiences, I guess. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it plays out and what partners come and build. And sounds, I mean, I think everybody, always thinks Ready Player One when they think of Metaverse. So it'll be exciting to see it to actually start to come to life.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you're saying about how it's like digital experiences and whatnot, and then I'm kind of thinking of like the tooling that they have for people, and thinking, okay, maybe this is like a new AI version of like Photoshop or video editing and whatnot. And I mean, we really don't know, because I mean, you might be right that it's mainly just this, and I keep saying that, oh, there's all these tools and whatnot, and it's not necessarily the case for it. But again, if anybody's out there and you're listening and you're wanting to give your 2 cents on what's going on here within this announcement, I think that we are kind of going down a path of very interestingness. And for anybody that watches some of the big YouTubers in terms of like CSS Becker, he's been tweeting a lot about how, oh, there's going to be this Ready Player One metaverse, and there's a lot of other big individuals out there that have highlighted what that IP is and the future of that. And Futureverse now is officially partnered with them for that. So I'll be curious to see who's down with it, who re-highlights that aspect of it, or if it's something that they're not involved with. They're like, it's kind of whatever, right? Because everybody's got those lovely narratives that they have for this. So I mean, I'm just trying to think, is there anything else that we want to cover on kind of what this is? Because this is the early stages of linked up the tweet. Make sure that you guys sign up for the early access for the games and experiences if you have not done there. But Bildo, is there anything that you think that we should go over that we haven't? Because there's the Tencent partnership that was kind of casually hinted at the other day. There is a partnership with NVIDIA. Obviously, a lot of the other big brands and whatnot that have been highlighted from Futureverse. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we can kind of like speculate on here, because now it feels like we're kind of just waiting. It's interesting that the team keeps bringing up the Apple Vision Pro, because it's like, all right, are we just saying that because within Ready Player One everybody has the VR headsets and that's the idea with it, or is there actually a bigger hint for that? Because again, the team has also hinted at Roblox massively, and there is a Ready Player Two experience that apparently has had like 50 million plus players go through it.
I mean, I'd love to speculate if Fresco's still going to have flat feet in the metaverse.
Bro, I wear orthotics. Don't say that. That's crazy. What a crazy thing.
That's insane, dude. I'm in a grocery store. I can't respond the way that deserves, but that's insane.
Holy, that's incredible. So okay, I'm trying to
Zero
think
chance
of.
on that, by the way. Well, so here's the thing, right? Apple is gonna launch that. And okay, what do you guys want? Do you guys want me to be bullish or bearish? I'm flexible, dude. I could be
Listen,
whatever you
give
guys
us
need.
both. You can be 50-50. No, you do you, baby.
I mean, I'm all in one way or the other. Here's the thing: is Apple gonna launch that thing? Like, I think it's soon, right? And that's gonna great. I think that's gonna be a fundamentally like groundbreaking and sorry, I'm pressing all sorts of buttons here. I think that's going to be a very huge piece of technology that changes.
Yeah, I don't know if Fresco signal's going horrible there, but
The
yeah,
terms of
Wagner's
entertainment, right?
running. Okay, hold on, we're back.
It's also $3,000. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Sorry, cut out. I heard
Oh,
the $3,000 mention that you just had, but you're vibing.
yeah, it's crazy. That thing is going to be too expensive. So if you launch as like a first, like an exclusive to something like the Vision Quest, it's great, right? Because there's a lot of cachet and a lot of clout with that. But how many people are actually going to be playing that off rip, right? People who are wasting money that we deserve. But, I don't know. There's parts of me that get excited, and there's other parts of me that get kind of discouraged at that potential. I don't know. I can be whatever you want me to be, Schiller. I could be bullish or bearish, man. What do you need?
Yo, I need you to be. I was trying to think of an animal and I couldn't think of it. I need you to be tigerish, if you will. But no, that's honestly that's a great point, because I mean we do talk about how kind of like the mass. I mean everybody says like the mass adoption of things, or getting a sizable user base, and it is kind of it's not like, hey, you can just go get a soccer ball or get a basketball and find like somewhere that's got hoops for some of these things. You do have those technological advancements, and even for people with phone. Well, I mean not necessarily phones, because a lot of these. Experiences and stuff that we're seeing are kind of mobile tailored, not necessarily within Futureverse, but within kind of the Web3 space in general. But for anybody that has a PC for some of these high fidelity gaming experiences, you do need to spend a little bit of money to have the hardware to be able to run it, and so that'll be an interesting thing. And I mean, listen, if we want to get totally crazy with it, as it would be wild if they actually end up getting to a point where this is big enough where they could kind of launch their own virtual headset that's branded by them. Like the likelihood of that happening maybe is not,
Stop.
really there.
Stop.
But I mean,
Stop.
well, think about it. Xbox, they made consoles. PlayStation, Nintendo, they did their whole thing. Listen, if we want to be a bull, we can be a bull, baby.
Yeah, this is crazy. You got to rein this in, dude. These visionaries, man, they go too wild with things.
But I mean, for anybody that isn't in the ecosystem at all in terms of like playing any experiences, there is a game. If you open up your phone and you go to the App Store, it's called AI League, and you can kind of see an example of what some of these AI games are going to be. There's an AI Racers game that's coming up as well, and then there's Gods and Goblins, which is an experience that's a stream to play. Auto Brawler, and it's interesting that for that game in particular, it's something that you don't really have to do, right? Like it's a very passive experience, and we talk about these AI agents within the metaverse, and we haven't really seen what that looks like. There's talks of, hey, you can have these, bots that trade for you that maybe, gather resources or something. Where if you played like RuneScape, for example, typically you just like click and then you can mine ore or tree and these resources. And now, with the world changing in terms of some of these AI integrated games, that's something that could end up changing massively. So, Bildo, any thoughts on the AI agent aspect of things with Ready Player One officially being announced here in creating this metaverse?
Yeah, I'm excited for it to come. I mean, I think we've all been waiting, and I think the next stage on TNL, like we've seen or gotten like the style and been able to swap hair and different stuff like that. We're getting swappables with Party Bears, which I'm imagining will be probably live here pretty soon with TNL as well. But I think their next thing is like brain pairing. And so that's where it gets really interesting to me is like then taking our brains, putting it into these characters that we have and training them specifically, not necessarily like a Gods and Goblins where it's kind of all passive, and or can we then start to put them in our goblins and train a kick-ass like Grumble goblin that just is on a murdering spree.
It's really, yo, want to welcome up here Max Poker. If you guys don't know and you enjoy Futureverse and Root Network content, Max hosts a space every week, I believe on Tuesday nights. It's around 6 p.m. ish, 7 p.m. My time. But Max, good morning. Are you excited about the news? What are your thoughts?
Good morning. It's a little bit early, so my voice cracked a little bit.
It's noon on the eastern side of the world, man.
Yeah, well, it is noon, but I kind of am a vampire, so my sleep schedule is, more Pacific than noon, than Eastern. Anyway, I think, this is kind of something that the team was getting us ready for. And when you think about Ready Player One and when you watch that movie, it's very high tech and it's an experience that's very immersive and very like high definition. Not like a we're not talking about something that's easy to do. And the team or whoever exactly is building these experiences are going to need to build experiences that require a lot more than like let's say a cartoon IP or pretty much most IPs out there. So I'm excited to see what experiences are going to be built, but also trying to be realistic about not knowing, have they been building these experiences for a long time? Have they not started building these experiences? And what is the process from where we are now to getting to see these experiences? Because if it really is an experience that has the same type of quality as the movie, or maybe a better way to say it is the type of quality that somebody who watched the movie would want in a metaverse type immersive experience. If they can produce that quality, how long will it take? But if they do, people will be excited about it.
I mean,
That seems pretty
in the
obvious.
beginning of that movie, like it's really like there needs to be a ton of experiences that anybody can enjoy to where you want to go in and play a fighting game, you want to go in and dance, you want to play a racing game, you want to do whatever it is. There's an experience for everybody. And I think that'll take time, but I think there are some probably big partners. I don't know if there's games that will migrate over. You know, I know Jeff had mentioned in chat, imagine if a game was, I forget the exact verbiage, but like imagine a successful game was rebranded en route. Has anybody done calculations for Vortex for something like that? So, I mean, I have to imagine that there are people with experiences ready that have been waiting. I don't think we get that, in the next month but I do think we get some pretty awesome experiences this year.
Define a couple things that I think were very, very sage in what Max is saying is like the the what is a realistic time frame like with and I think every time Futureverse makes an announcement we all have more questions and answers, but how long has this been being built for, like this specific experience? Like let's not boil the ocean, right? Let's get one out. And so with Ready Player Verse, like how far in are we? How many people are actually working on that? I saw a number get thrown out earlier by a non-team member of 30. Like that's not enough, right? So that I guess I'm walking away with more questions as to like what is realistic in time frame, and scope, and I don't know. I have a lot of questions before I want to get super excited here.
It does feel like we have a lot of kind of like iterations of things within the Web3 space where it's not necessarily the full blown experience, but it's kind of one offs here and there. And Fresco, I just saw you jump off, so feel free to come back up if you want, but I appreciate you taking the time, sir. But it is kind of an interesting aspect to think of, like, okay, when these experiences and this Readyverse, kind of launch the metaverse that they're working on, is it something where it's kind of like a starting area that you're able to play with? Are flufflets involved in that capacity, or is it something that is much kind of like a bigger scope on like an initial launch and maybe it's not as in depth? Or is the aspect of the AI able to make things move significantly faster, based on the tooling kit, which again we've not really gotten all of the insights on that Futureverse has for the Futureverse platform? It's yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. But Builder or Max, is there any thoughts that you guys have with how kind of quickly we see this? And Max, I see unmuted, so go ahead.
Well, I mean, you have to have announcements before you have delivery. I mean, that's obvious. And we've seen a lot of announcements and partnerships. You have to have partnerships too, or you have to build it yourself. But building it yourself for something at the scale that they're doing would require, I mean, a crazy amount of resources. So it's great that they're getting all these big companies on their team and having these partnership announcements. It's really important. It's a prerequisite to being successful at trying to do what they're trying to do at Futureverse. And that, I mean, there still needs to be the reality of what those partnerships can do. So right now we can see that it's possible because they're getting all of these companies on board to try to do something, but doing it is a whole nother task, and it's a lot of heavy lifting is required for what they are setting themselves up for. And we've seen glimpses of their ability to do things, but we haven't seen, and we shouldn't have expected to have seen, something that can onboard, hundreds of thousands of people in the way that they speak about, which is a way that is protected and as a user experience that is unlike the current user experiences in crypto, one in which people don't lose their assets, one in which is Web 2 friendly. We've seen like the FIFA game, that the AI League game partnered with FIFA where people can download a game and play it. But Ready Player One for me, it's not just a game, it's a very immersive experience. And I expect that to be done in a way that is friendly for Web 2 users and doesn't require those users to know the details about the Web 3 that underlines it. But it's not just one app, it's got to be much more than that. So I don't 100% know what that would look like. Does it include like the headsets, like the VR headsets that you see in the movie? Is it a mobile experience? Like, what does it look like, and is it one experience after another, or are we just going to see, some type of product that looks somewhere close to something that is finished enough that a lot of people would be into it?
Well, to your one point about the user's safety per se, I think that it made me go back a while ago to where Aaron was on a show or something, and he said like 1% of people aren't going to be familiar with the happenings of like what's going on behind the scenes with the root network, etc. So I do very much wonder what it's going to look like in terms of the experience from the people that us here, we're the powered users. We understand the vortex, the dashboards, all that crazy stuff behind the scenes that most aren't ever going to interact with, comparatively to the people that are just playing the experiences and potentially using our assets, which is another thing that's kind of not talked about a whole lot. It seems that the focus has been really on the root token as a whole, where if these different digital assets, the buzzies, the party bears, fluffs, everything else is a part of this, and for those all stars, if there is the splicing and people, if they create things for the flufflets, yada yada yada, kind of how that looks, I think it'll be very interesting. And I feel like the majority of people aren't going to be dealing with that kind of stuff. But Fresco, you're back up here. Is there anything you're wanting to add, sir? Good to have you back.
Yo, yeah, sorry. I think with when I look at things like FIFA, right? I think people are gonna want to look at that partnership and be pretty unexcited about anything that comes in the future. And I think getting Tencent on board is so much different, right? Because Tencent's also a company that builds, so they're not just a company that is gonna you're licensing a name from, which is FIFA, right? Let's not make a mistake about that. I think people expected a lot from FIFA, not knowing how FIFA operates. So I do get a lot more excited about this level of partnership, because these are also people that build things, right? Tencent builds. Ready Player One is an immersive
Right.
IP. So
Can I ask you a question though? Is a team of Tencent, game developers building out like these experiences? Is that what we expect?
I think
Like, who do we expect to be building out these experiences?
if I was Futureverse, and what my hope is as a community member and consumer is that we want Tencent to be building these things. We don't want Futureverse building games. I think we all have a lot of opinions on how the games have gone so far. Um, I know what mine is. It's not high. I think we want Tencent as hands on as they possibly can be.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we would want that. Anyone that wouldn't want that in the community, I think, is probably not informed about what Tencent is capable of doing versus what a new startup with limited experience in building games can do, right? Um, the question is, are they?
I mean, to me, it seems like that's what they've been, hinting at and continuing to do is let people do like Mo AI. That wasn't like a Futureverse thing. That's a completely, those people found him at the XRP conference and then just built something cool. And I think that's what Futureverse is really trying to do is let the people that do cool shit do their cool shit and do it on our platform. We'll give you all the tools that you need to be able to do all of that, but go do what you do and just do it on the root network. That to me seems like I don't see why you wouldn't bring in a Tencent to let them be the gaming platform. You know what I mean? Like you're in charge of doing all of that. If they're doing it, I have no idea, but that would be my speculation.
I think that Tencent wouldn't come on to something and not build or publish it, right? Whether that's again, having more questions and answers here with everything is Tencent functions as both, right? And building a game and shipping them are two totally different skill sets. Both the Tencent would be better at Futureverse in orders of magnitude at both of those things, and there's no question about that. So I think any way you look at the Tencent relationship, I think they're going to be more hands on previous big partnerships. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think IP like Ready Player One that just got announced, like I don't think that they come on board without a clear vision of like how Futureverse and partnering with Futureverse can really bring that to life. And I don't think you can really bring that to life without somebody that could also partner and take care of the gaming side of things. And I think there'll be other partners that will expand into completely other markets, Reebok with shoes or apparel. I mean, there's just a lot of different opportunities. I think you don't license your IP like Ready Player One and commit to building, this interoperable experience and, bringing Ready Player One to life without a plan and some partners in place to be able to really make that happen. So my guess would be Tencent is there to make the gaming happen.
Wag me, brother. I mean, honestly, the amount of partnerships and everything that have been highlighted over the last little bit, I know that going into the new year last year, there was a lot of hype about things that were going to come, and it seemed that things kind of slowed down at the beginning of the year, and we didn't get some of these major announcements. But going into this year, it feels like we're getting whacked in the face with the baseball bat than Aaron did last year, and so I think it's kind of interesting. And I'm curious, Fresco. I know that you kind of have like some insights and you're involved with different aspects within kind of the gaming and Web3 world here. Is what do you think, like, in terms of obviously there was things that happened in the ball, things are probably bigger than what they were a year ago, but how do you think some of these conversations have gone behind the scene that kind of lead to the delays? Is it something that they're like, hey, like we need to wait until kind of the infrastructure ready? Is it both parties that are kind of waiting, or is it a market aspect? Because I think that a lot of us were like, okay, like where are these big things? Like maybe it's just the market dynamic within the bear market. As soon as we flip bull here, it seems that everybody's launching everything, and we're we're in a very positive mindset.
Yeah, this is totally me putting me on the spot. I think people aren't gonna like my answer. I'm totally okay to be put on the spot, so please continue to do so. But I think that these conversations are a little bit more fresh than we all would assume. Um, I think there's been a lot of learning experiences from things like a partnership with FIFA, where we were told like, I mean, you look at the timeline of ASM, and we were told it got pushed back for FIFA because it's such a big partner, right? And we got one tweet from FIFA that was part of a tweet that had 4 other games involved in it, right? Um, I think this is a learning experience from that, but that also makes me think that this this maybe hasn't been as fleshed out, or not fleshed out. I think the vision has been there from the very early stages, but the rolling up the sleeves and the work hasn't really been started for the last maybe 12 months or so. And I also think like if you do this whole roll up, you talk about how this roll up is foundational for the future of the company and all these things. Why was this not part of that roll up, right? And I think because it's a little bit newer, and it was too hard to incorporate something like this into that roll up, which all leads me to believe that this is pretty early here.
Well, I thought for the roll ups, it was all about them kind of rolling up different companies that were targeting different things. Because I mean, I was reading some of the silo information, and that even on their site, they said they were like doing stuff like a long time ago, and I was like, holy jeez, like I thought this was, obviously we have the 5 years plus, but it seemed like they've been doing it for way longer. And so for myself, at least, I thought those roll ups were more about them bringing together the companies that cover different aspects, and for this one with that partnership, I mean, to your point of it being kind of newer, then obviously that wouldn't be a part of it, and maybe they just didn't have the kind of the wheel spinning on that one for that specific IP component of it.
I think the roll up was necessary to create something that was investable. If you have like 10 different companies that have similar ownership structures and are working together but are not the same company, it's pretty much logistically impossible, or at the very least, incredibly logistically challenging to get normal investment into it. So the roll up was really required to be able to do anything with a big scope. And I don't think looking at the roll-up and a new venture or a newly announced venture is like tells a ton of information about how far along they are. But I do think it's somewhat likely that they're not very far along, but I don't know how to measure that.
Yeah, Max, I think you're right about the investment vehicle. That's a very good observation, actually, because a lot of times when as an investor, right? So for people that don't know this stuff, sometimes they just don't even really care about the company. They want team exposure. That's a term you hear a lot in fundraising and investing, and if you haven't ever been on the side of it, I mean, I've pitched to VCs that are like, we don't really care about this, but we like the team, right? So I think that's a very good point. But I think like it's another co-founded, Aaron and Shara thing. It makes sense to be, and this is something that would further that fundraising, I think by like 2-3x, right? So why there would be why they wouldn't is again another question.
I think people can pull back the earliest hints of Ready Player One, and they're many months ago, but I think it takes time to get from having hints of this happening to having teams in place building something. And we don't know what teams are building things. I know, like, we're aware that Futureverse acquired a like a indie game developer at some point prior to the roll up. That was part of the roll up. But I don't imagine that you'd have a team like that capable of taking on such a big task alone, or even if they would be a lead, or what type of role they would play in this, if any. So it's really curious to me as to like who is working on what, I guess.
I would hope that none of the indie studio acquisitions are leading this. In game development, it's very common to have outsourced work, right? So you're a Tencent, right? You bring on outside studios to do sound and animation and just assistance on a lot of things. That's super common. I would hope that's what's happening here. I think this is what we're looking at is like a AAA IP, and for people who don't know what that actually means, it's usually actually dollar spend, not quality of work. People assume something that's like built in Unreal Engine 5 and has good graphics is AAA. That's a very wrong definition. It's dollar spend, and AAA games are usually in the nine figures, right? Looking at like $100 million. Um, I think this is what I would hope is a AAA IP here. That there's a lot of money going into this, and maybe high eight figures, not nine figures. That's probably unrealistic for the money that's available for this. Um, but the hope is here is that these indie studios that have been acquired and Futureverse and you know um, I would hope that there's a whole new team that Tencent is scoping out and building, or Tencent's leading it. And I not to throw an insult to my Kiwi friends, I hope it's not a New Zealand built. I hope the talent's not coming from New Zealand. I hope it's coming from other parts of the world.
Did y'all read this Forbes article, by the way?
Okay, so I was gonna read that, but I wanted to let everybody kind of have their thoughts and opinions about things before I jumped into it. Bildo, do you want to read it or do you want me to?
I mean, I feel like you got the reading voice, but yeah,
Yeah,
there's
come on,
we can
Schiller. We
pause
want to hear your
through a couple
voice.
times because I read through probably the first half, and I feel like there's some really interesting things to discuss.
Okay, hold on. I'm just trying to bring up my stuff on my phone
Yeah,
here.
I guess while you're pulling that up, we'll continue to talk about what we've been talking about. But also, guys, how great is Schiller's voice?
Thank you.
It's so good. It's such a good voice, man. You know, he hurt me yesterday though. I was featured on the show. He has a great show, a daily show where he reads what's happening on X. I dropped a fucking banger tweet yesterday about Square Enix and another traditional Web 2 giant who's building. And this fucking guy reads half the tweet and then just closes it. It was like, well, that's boring, done with this guy. And then goes and reads whole other tweets. I was the only one I got half treatment, dude. And I'm a friend of his.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Dude, when you put it like that, it's so much better.
Imagine getting big timed by your own friends, dude.
Oh, man, that's incredible. Okay.
And look how happy he is about it, dude.
Oh, dude. Holy. Okay. Ready, Player One. Okay. All right. Here's the Forbes article.
I don't ever want to be on that show again.
Ready Player One comes to immersive life with the Readyverse Studios launch. In perhaps the most inevitable translation of a hit book and movie into the immersive future, Ready Player One author Ernest Cline and Dan Farah, who produced the book's film and adaptation, have partnered with tech company Futureverse Studios to launch the Readyverse, what the co-founders call a multi-world, multi-IP, interoperable open metaverse experience for mass consumers. The Readyverse will also feature licensed digital props and other intellectual property from the director Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One film through a deal with distributor Warner Bros. Negotiations continue with other brands and Hollywood content studios for similar licensing deals, co-founders said. The Readyverse approach holds promise for struggling studios to more safely take their entertainment franchises into immersive experiences, giving users access to treasured brands while still protecting intellectual property rights and revenue possibilities. In quotes here, there's a real problem merging tech and Hollywood, said Futureverse and Readyverse co-founder Shar Senderoff, whose career started in the film business and also headed a music tech venture fund with super manager Scooter Braun. People come in like vultures and steal everything they created. Having grown up in Hollywood, it was most important for me that we change that. We're going to be the translators to transition your IP comfortably and safely. Co-founder Aaron McDonald said the Warner Bros. Deal and subsequent ones with other holders of big franchise rights is important for the technology's overall success. IP is really critical, McDonald said. It creates the vehicle by which users get interested to cross that boundary, to create an immersive experience. Going out with technology, but without that IP is a very hard road to walk. Through the Readyverse, though the Readyverse isn't quite ready for occupancy, we will have an announcement in a few weeks that people will be able to engage, said McDonald, who, with Senderoff, co-founded Futureverse Studios, which provides the stack of content creation, AI, and other technologies to enable a real-world vision of Cline's fictional universe. Ready Player One, the book, debuted in 2011 and was a bestseller that spawned a hit sequel. It tracked the fight for control of a massive immersive universe of experiences called the Oasis. After his death, Oasis creator and 80s pop culture obsessive James Halliday sets off a frenzied Easter egg search by users for clues that would give the quest winner control over the vastly valuable company. Spielberg's 2018 film was stuffed with those references from across Warner Bros. Deep film and TV catalog and from many other brands, shows, and more. It's that sort of experience brought to life that the co-founders hope to enable while reducing tech barriers so a broader array of creators can build their own immersive experiences, easily find them, and dip into them. The future has arrived even more quickly than I imagined, said Cline in a release. With Readyverse Studios, we have the opportunity to leverage the revolutionary technology Futureverse has been building for several years to bring to life the best possible version of the metaverse. I'm confident with this team, we have the brightest minds and biggest hearts in place to lead us into the next chapter of our collective future, and a future that would make Wade Watts and James Halliday proud. McDonald likened the Readyverse to a discovery tool for immersive experience, providing what's effectively a search engine for immersive worlds created by its users. The Readyverse will be enabled by a set of content creation tools built by Futureverse over the past 5 years. including a 3D prop creator and music and sound creation powered by a combination of proprietary and open source generative artificial intelligence, McDonald said. The worlds that are created will be interconnected by two things: a digital passport that contains personal information, and the Ready Pass, your ticket to the show, as it were, McDonald said. Those provide players with a single sign on, identity, avatar, billing information, and portable access to digital goods across the worlds created with the tools, but also, importantly, with immersive worlds and experiences outside the Readyverse itself. These articles are so long, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. McDonald likened the Futureverse tools that undergrade Readyverse to the democratizing power of the web browser, social media platforms, mobile app stores, blockchain, and Web3 technologies. Collectively, over the past 35 years, those technologies have empowered huge new populations of creative people to make and distribute content with fewer and fewer demands for technical or financial capabilities. The addition of powerful AI tools, such as Futureverse has been building, will take ease and speed of content creation to yet another level, McDonald said, while empowering a much wider array of immersive experiences. There's all of this new capability now to be creative as a user, to be creative with all these tools. The popular narrative is that the metaverse is dead, but if people can type a word into existence with AI prompts, won't there be more worlds than ever to explore? McDonald acknowledged the approach is somewhat similar to game platform Roblox, but designed to move further beyond that company's own sprawling walled garden of tens of millions of user created experiences. The Readyverse approach is designed to let players shift easily between online worlds beyond its own operations. Crucially, while Futureverse has built tools on Epic Games' Unreal Engine, a standard in many visual effects and animation companies, but with the translation capabilities to allow interoperability with experiences built on established immersive platforms from Unity, Meta, Alphabet, and others, we're all about the openness and exclusiveness of exciting properties, but allowing new generations to build creative universes, McDonald said. Ready Player One is the perfect IP to start that journey with because it's already in the popular culture and about putting control back in the hands of its users. As a vehicle to start, that's the perfect choice. This is so long. Oh my God. Part of that is the use of what Senderoff and Cline called donuts, decentralized versions of the web browser cookies that track a user's preferences and interests. The donut approach allows the user to sign in under one identity, handle billing, and take digital assets purchased in one world onto others. Though Cline has written a hit sequel, Ready Player 2, no announcements have been made about a possible second or subsequent film. There's a lot of buzz out there about a film adaptation of Ready Player 2, said Farah, but there's no news now. We hope soon there will be. As part of the deal with Warner Bros., Readyverse will have immersive rights to material in both of Cline's books and any subsequent projects, as well as the movie and any substantial spin offs. Farah said, sorry, you have to shut the door. We have birds in the house and they're going nuts. Our deal is just the IP that Warner Brothers owns, assets from the movie, the world elements, Farah said. Those are the things that we get to use for the entire franchise as the franchise keeps going. When you think about Ready Player One, you don't go home in on all the IP in there. Sorry, you don't hone in on all the IP there. You focus on the ideas, interoperability, ownership of avatar, smoothly go from one world to another world, the transactions. You can do what you want to do, be what you want to be. You can present yourself how you want to be. The Readyverse co-founders quoted a recent City analyst report predicting that immersive metaverse spaces could generate as much as $13 trillion in value by 2030 as headsets improve and applications of the technology seep into many portions of the economy. Apple, in brackets minus 1.3% on the stock, announced its in June that it plans to launch its $3,499 Vision Pro immersive headset early this year, which, despite the steep price, is expected to kickstart the slowing developing sector. The Vision Pro will be largely compatible with most of the million or so apps on Apple's iOS App Store, but the company is also working with the companies such as Walt Disney to create bespoke experiences and applications for the headset. Ladies and gentlemen, we're done with the article. Gentlemen up on stage, take over.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
That was
All right, my
impressive.
takeaway, that was impressive. I don't know how you didn't drink water during that or anything. you have a future in audiobooks, man. My takeaway from that is there's probably no Roblox partnership there, right? He wouldn't dig at Roblox if that was going to be a future partner, right? The language was a little different when it comes to Roblox than it is when it comes to like a Tencent or a FIFA or a Warner Brothers or a CAA, right? So that's one of my takeaways. The other takeaway was I foolishly said that the Apple headset was only $3,000, which is $3,499. So I stand corrected.
Here is my thoughts on the article and more broadly what this partnership is and what all these partnerships are. Back in the early days of Fluff World, before it became Futureverse, Aaron used to talk a lot about, well, we have all these blockchain companies under our umbrella, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to show a use case for how these tools can be used and then try to get people to use these tools. But the way that we're going to do that isn't by releasing them to the public and just being like, okay, here it is. Instead, they were going to show us use cases and then show these use cases to IPs and big companies existing. Be like, look what you can do for your audience with these blockchain tools. And what seems to have happened over more recent months is they've been able to get a lot of these companies on board with only showing them what's possible, but without really executing many examples themselves. So, like, one thing that I was expecting to happen, and a lot of people were expecting to happen, was things like AFA, and things like breeding, and things like some type of playable experience, followed by hoping that some people get excited about that and are interested in it. But it seems that Aaron and Shara and team have been able to get these big names on board without showing a full comprehensive experience, but simply by showing, what experiences they have so far and whatever they have that isn't publicly available information, and experiences or products that do exist and have existed but haven't gained a user base yet. Um, I think that means the timeline has been moved up on the eventual goals of the company, which is to bring in the open metaverse and be big and high scale and make an impact in society and show how these futuristic technologies can make better experiences instead of just be buzzwords. That being said, I don't know what that means for some of the existing like early planned things, such as like breeding. Like, if you have realistically the IP and teamwork of these big companies and Ready Player One, wouldn't that be more of a priority than making a game with rabbits? That's just my thoughts. And rabbits that only a few thousand people care about, and versus an IP that is the personification of the metaverse that millions of people care about. So I kind of expect or maybe believe that some of the earlier plans have been put to the back burner, and should be, and a type of readjustment for what our expectations should be on where the focus of the company lies. But as we have seen, they allocated 20% of the tokens that will ever be for the root network to community through community rewards. And additionally, there's also more pools of tokens that are earnable through different things like staking and um, some type of future game, which is called in the work paper land dynamics or something like that. So I think we should really be thinking about how to readjust our expectations and also thinking about what this means for what the company is working on and focusing on.
My takeaways were donuts, and we'll have something that we can engage in the next few weeks.
Okay, my takeaway was the fact they brought up that there's 13 trillion apparently going in the metaverse or something like that. What
You-
hell of it
you
going
better.
on?
I think Max, you're spot on with everything you said. I think a while ago I started looking at Futureverse as more of like a B2B SaaS company. I think this is you know, I think if you don't view them after this announcement as a B2B SaaS company, you're just not reading what's in front of you.
We got Sean up on the stage here. Sean, good morning, good afternoon. How are you? What's your thoughts on all of this?
Well, first of all, thanks for pulling me up. And, I think there's a lot of pioneers in the space. And I think when you look at what they're trying to do, it seems like a Lambda 1 play where they're trying to be kind of the conduit or the bridge between different experiences that could be built out there with certain IP. And what I mean by that is Lambda 1 came up with, and I think it was a layer 2 avalanche, which allowed you basically to put all your assets and different things and basically get everyone to agree upon some type of standard where you can move from one game or experience built by someone as long as they follow the protocols and standards. When you talk about Ready Player One, I guess this is my only irk and more because it's something that we're working on, is that when you think of Ready Player One, you think of one persistent world where everyone is roaming together, where you're able to, the same way that we all have a specific person in the real world, we can actually create one or many personas that could live a lifetime, like the same as our lifetime. And we can roam around and easily go to work, play games, training, you name it, everything imaginable. And the challenge around there is the technology. If you actually read most of the articles, most people believe it's 30 years away until we have anything close like that. And I'll give you a reason why. Meta actually changed their name and they wanted to create the next iteration of the internet. Obviously Metaverse, and they're stuck at around 15 to 20 people in a single ecosystem. And what I mean by that is the technology doesn't allow you to scale, where literally you can have billions of people roaming around, millions of different applications built by anybody. And so those ideas are considered far-fetched. And so you see people more forming what is called the federated metaverse, which is basically like linking intranets. Imagine everyone creating their own intranet and then someone formulating a bridge where you can move from one internet to another instead of actually building the internet, the actual fully connected real-time internet that allows these immersive experiences to coexist with each other. And we actually, I'm one of the founders of RP1, and we actually created the technology to allow everyone to come together in the same ecosystem, all streaming in a browser, meaning that you can literally build your own content, put in a web address, and instantly go to that space and not have to go through these big platforms or these massive downloads or installs through app stores. It's actually on the web. And we actually just did a launch with over 100,000 people, a system capable of 100,000 people, all roaming around the same space. That is basically endless. And we're about to do a public one, which is really going to be the first iteration of a true immersive internet technology capable of. And we're actually building the tools where any creator would be able to build what they want, how they want, without any limitations. In fact, if you don't have the tools, you can build them. You can become the WordPress. But the whole idea of this Ready Player One is I think people are using these terms, throwing them together, and then just seeing what their technology can do. And for me, it's really really important that at some point we have to define truly what this future web looks like, this internet looks like, and come together to actually help build it, versus actually trying to build things that don't really capture the larger vision of what everyone has been talking about.
I'll jump in here, and then if anybody else has extra thoughts, it is interesting because, like, I mean, on some of the shows that we talk about, it's all about how like the future's interoperable, this, that, and the other thing, and it does feel like there is everybody trying to create everything kind of under the sun, and it'll be interesting once we have kind of a way that it is, you know, fully connected with whatever tools and streamlined process that there is, and we know that for oh, I'm forgetting the name of it, but there was the partnership that happened, and it was something DAO, Open DAO. I don't know if Bildo, Max, Fresco, if you guys remember the announcement that happened, where apparently for like Unity devs or something like that, where they now can have like interoperable tools to be able to launch on the Root network. And obviously, you know,
Open
there's way more
MetaDAO.
beyond that. Open MetaDAO. Thank you, Bildo. Guys, coming in clutch. Gold star. Thank you very much. Props. And it's about kind of getting out there and really changing the world, right? Like I think that the value of the internet, and Aaron's talked about it a lot about how this is fully changing, and it's cool to see what's happening. But we are really at the grassroots stage where there's a lot of people that don't do this. I mean, over the holiday break, I don't know how many of you guys went to your different families, maybe brought up crypto here and there, and some of the conversations go well, and some of them you're like, all right, yeah, I know you guys have no idea what's going on. So, but Sean, I appreciate you jumping up on here, boss.
What I would say is it's obviously true what you're saying, Sean, that the technology for what's portrayed in the Ready Player One movie is very far away. Not only that, but so too is the like cultural way that people in today's world think. Like they're not ready for a world like Ready Player One. And Ready Player One is just a movie. It's not necessarily like it's not the future of the world, right? But what needs to happen for there to be an advancement of the internet and the internet culture is number one, time, and number two, people building new things. And I don't think that it's possible for like a group of people to be like, well, let's plan this all out in advance so that in 15, 20 years, we're going to have this picture built. What it takes is a lot of people and a lot of companies building iterations of things, and the people in our culture, and especially kids, growing up with these concepts and iterating. And it will, like, the internet started 30 some years ago, and if you look back even at any given point in the past and see where we are today, it's not predictable back then. So I think we'll see something similar to that, of lots of different people building a lot of different things and different users using them in different ways, and over time different concepts that maybe we can't even think about now become something people are used to or excited about or is part of their like idea of how the world is. And that's not something that will happen overnight, and it's great that a lot of different companies are thinking about different ways to build into the future. And it's not going to be one specific company or one way that shapes the future, but certain companies become a big part of it. Like obviously, like TikTok is a big part right now, and there have been a lot of companies in the past that have been big parts. But it's a collection of time and lots of different iterations by a lot of different people with a lot of different users.
Yeah, I think you actually touched upon two important things. One is that the tools themselves are still very difficult. And if you want to actually be a world builder, either you are stuck in the confines of a Roblox and learning their ecosystem, or you have to really become like a Unity or a large developer. And if you think about why the web works, and I think it's probably the most important inflection we can look at, because we understand what has been successful and how everyone has been able to participate, is there's a level of standards and protocols that allow the entire web world to interact with each other and be interoperable. And so you have HTML, you have CSS, anyone could become the WordPress, anyone could be any layer or plugin you want within the web ecosystem, you can participate without a company saying you can or cannot do something. And that's what makes the web or the internet really, really powerful. The challenge that you have is when you're talking about real time, like gamified real time experiences where I can jump into a world and instantly be connected. All of us could instantly go somewhere and instantly not only hear each other, but see each other and see each other move. That becomes an infinitely really hard problem to solve. And more importantly, you're typically beholden on a company that solved it for a small amount of users. And with that becomes a tax. It becomes either a 30% or an 80% if you're up as high as Roblox. But I do believe the demand for it is there. I do believe that people are not just playing games to play the games for the sake of the game, but they're actually interacting with their friends. They're actually having conversations about their day. They're actually doing things that are well beyond what the game was designed for. And there is that social connection that I think people are starving for. And that was proven during COVID, where when we took that in real life experience away, or the connection, people were starving for that in many different ways and were limited. And you saw companies like Clubhouse, I mean, Twitter, obviously, you see a lot of these social media sites became even more popular because it was a way to actually share information with each other. And so I think people do want to connect with each other. They would love to be able to have a talk like this and we can instantly jump in there with you. Or let's say if I want to go to a comedy club and I don't have the money or there's not one near me, I want to be able to just jump in with my mobile phone or my VR headset and instantly be in a comedy club. Excuse me. Um, and be in that
Taking
comedy
fucking
club
bong
together.
rips over there, Sean, or what?
Yeah, totally. Actually, I was sick over the holidays, so I'm still kind of recovering, but that did sound like a big um sorry about that. But I think it's important that you have these spaces where you can actually come together, and it's not going to be just the end all technologies. You need the ones that sit, you need the DNS, you need the TCP/IP, you need the ones that actually help do the real-time connections, and that's the problem that's not being solved. And when you can solve that, then everyone can participate. You still got to solve the baseline technologies that allow these protocols to work, and that takes a definitely a village. In fact, we got lucky. Our co-founder was actually the head architect of Full Tilt Poker. And when he was at poker, he was the first. It was one of the first games in the world that ever needed 100,000 people in the same what is called shard. And so a lot of people don't realize from a technology standpoint, it is really, 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 really hard to scale lots of people in a single shard. I'll give you a great example, like Fortnite. They say they have 10 million people in a concert, but in reality, you're still only stuck with 100 people, and those 100 people can't talk to, communicate, or share data with any of the other, tens of millions of people that are watching that concert, or easily be able to move to another experience with whoever that you want. And because of that, then it became extremely limited as far as what you can scale. And so the idea of me creating one account and being connected seamlessly to a billion plus people is considered decades away because that is just so far fetched. And when he actually left Full Tilt Poker, he had to realize that the technology today, the way it's designed, was not designed for real time applications to coexist with each other. And so by solving that, then now you're able to actually bring in all the different companies together to then to actually build what they want, how they want. It doesn't have to be just one Web3 crypto. It could be many. Those are all should be tools that the public should decide what they want to use. It shouldn't be forced based on one DAO or one company or one information on how this should all go down. It should be protocols that allow everyone to plug into those protocols the same way we do with the current web ecosystem. And I think when that happens, I think it's going to explode. I mean, right now, forcing people to download Roblox and install it, create an account just to get into a single experience that they see in advertising or something like that. That's a lot to ask. Someone that's not an early adopter or someone that's not young and experienced in the Roblox real. If you ask someone to just go into a website and instantly be immersed in an experience, and just by putting a URL in a browser, you're now making it extremely easy for everyone to go into these experiences. And more importantly, it can't be a Roblox because you can't download the entire immersive web. It's not possible. It's too big. It has to stream to you in real time like a web app. Meaning that you have to go to a location and instantly you're streaming that location's information. And so you're talking about the future of on-demand content for real-time applications. But then there has to be the tools where everyone can participate as easy as building websites. And when it's that easy, then you're going to see a lot of this idea of the metaverse take off. And that's going to be extremely special when that happens.
Yo, love it. Sean, appreciate you bringing up the insights and get a little back and forth here with Max. I'm thinking that we might start slowing things down a little bit unless there's any kind of final topics that have been discussed. Of course, this session has been recorded. So if you haven't been listening the whole time and if you're wanting to read back, I do a monologue of reading several of the articles that are like 10 minutes long throughout this. So that was fun. And if you're wanting to revisit that, you can. But just for everybody that's up here speaking on the stage, I want to kind of give you kind of a last minute or two to kind of give final thoughts on the announcement of Readyverse and Ready Player One officially in the Metaverse, working with Futureverse and Buildo. If I could start with you, have at her.
Yeah, super excited. I mean, I think we've all been waiting for this. I think we all saw, the polish on the nails for quite some time. So, yeah, super excited to what's to come. It sounds like there'll be a few more announcements following it in the coming week. So, we got Quest 5 or 6, whatever, the swappables just ended. We got another, the trade ending here pretty soon. So, it seems like January is going to be pretty stacked with excitement. More root coming, more announcements coming. So, very exciting start to the year.
Sean, final thoughts here.
I mean, look, I think we're all pioneers, and I can't wait to see the content and things that they allow you to build and share with other individuals. I think that's going to help set the ability to understand what's possible, what these immersive applications mean for each other, and how we can actually connect. To me, I think these are all laying the foundational bricks as far as leading towards eventually a large internet that's immersive that we can all be connected with. And so I'm super excited to see kind of what that future looks like.
Really appreciate you jumping up here, Sean and Max. Final thoughts.
I think it's pretty cool that Sean jumped in, and I see that he has a company that is clearly very inspired by the movie Ready Player One and the IP. So I think that kind of goes to show us that this IP inspires a lot of people when it comes to the metaverse. And while we haven't seen execution of what it might look like or who's building what or what type of experiences that we can expect. We don't really know that. We still have a lot of questions. But having this IP, which means so much to so many people, is a big deal. And the execution, of course, matters. And I look forward to seeing how that will play out over the next months, years, and decades, even.
And for anyone that's kind of joining this, trying to get their feet wet and understanding what's going on with Futureverse, I've been posting kind of short 2 to 5 minute videos over the past year of different announcements. If you're wanting to check that out, it's easiest probably to find them on my YouTube page, which is on the profile. And this has been a Root Radio edition that's kind of just a spur of the moment. Typically, Shay and Tybo, not Shibo. Uh, we have a space that we
They have
run.
a new couple's name.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And this was kind of super spontaneous as the announcement went out, and there was a lot of demand for having conversations about that. So again, if you guys have any other questions about this and you're new to the ecosystem, everybody up on stage here, we've been a part of it, and we appreciate you tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day, and wag me, brother. We'll talk soon.